Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5-Minute Reedmaker. Listen, if you're watching on YouTube, can you go ahead and click subscribe right below this video or above this video or wherever you see it on your screen? Because if you do that, it'll help you to always know when I'm about to release another video. It will help me because other people will more easily be able to find my channel, and it will help, you know, oboists in general, because if more people can find my channel, more people can make better reeds and know more about oboe reeds. Thank you so much. Today I'm going to talk about what happens right after you wind up a blank. Do you clip it open right away? Do you scrape a little bit and leave it closed? Do you scrape a lot? Do you just leave it perfectly sealed? What do you do with your blank right after you wind it? Traditionally, I have left my blanks just like this, fully barked, with the ears trimmed off and nothing scraped at all. And I've left that to dry at least overnight in that form, thinking that it was going to keep the opening really well controlled, because I want my openings not to be too large. I really like a reed that's fairly well closed. But not everyone does that, and so I ran an experiment in which I took 2 reeds and did a full rough scrape on them as soon as I opened them. So in other words, I did a long scrape, I took off the cane at the tip, I constructed the reed basically, making a thin tip, making windows, leaving a heart. So those reeds crowed and beeped right away. That was my first level of experiment. My second level of experiment was I wound up 2 blanks and I gave them a long scrape right away. So without forming the tip or the windows, I just scraped off the bark and I clipped them open. I did another one in which I did a long scrape, just like that, with no construction of the tip or windows, but a long scrape, but I left the reed closed. And then one that as a control, that I did with all the bark on, just as I normally would. When I picked them up a few days later, what I discovered was that the reeds that I had constructed sort of looked like reeds, and when I worked on them, it was pretty easy to turn them into like my next stage. So it was almost as though I had done my normal thing, let them dry, then rough scraped them into that form. They felt like a day 3 reed, even though they were only a day 2 reed. So I was like, okay, that's cool. The reeds that I had scraped long without constructing a tip were super wide open, like almost round at the tip opening, as you can see in the picture, I hope. And I then went and put a day 2 scrape on them, set them aside for another night. The reed that I had long scraped and left closed, I opened and turned it into a reed, and it felt totally normal and fine. And the reed that I had left normally closed, my control reed, scraped it into a rough scrape. So after day 2, I had 6 reeds that all sort of looked like basic Joe reeds. I finished them one more time, and now here I am today. And what was really interesting to me, because I was really looking for an answer. What is optimal? What is going to really give us the thing that we want? And it's been really interesting, actually. The reeds that I initially scraped all the way down, the reeds that I did the most work to immediately upon winding, do have beautiful small openings, actually almost too small. I was really surprised that opening the reed and scraping it right away gave me such a tightly closed reed. It works fine, it's a perfectly nice Joe reed, but it is not, it doesn't have the comfortable springiness that I would normally look for. These reeds, my second version of the reeds, the ones that were wide open after day 1, are still the most open. They made reeds perfectly well. They made reeds perfectly well, but they remain a little more open and a little more hard than a normal reed that I would play on personally. Understanding, of course, that there's individual variation in all of these reeds. This is the reed that I long scraped but did not open. So in other words, I took all the bark off but kept the reed closed. And while this reed is a little bit wild still, I need to refine the corners, I actually really love the way it feels. It has a really good flow to it. It's working really well. And then this was my control reed, the one that I treated completely as normal. It was a closed reed, and then I scraped it. And interestingly, I guess, of the reeds that I made, this is the least finished feeling after putting in about the same amount of work each day after day one. Does that make sense? So because on day one, original day one when I wound it, I did nothing to it. Here on day 3, day 4, wherever I am, it now feels the least finished. I would want to put another level of finesse on this reed. I'd assumed that these candy cane reeds would be the most open because I had done the most to them initially. But no, they settled down really, really well. These reeds, the Christmas time reeds, ended up being the most open because I took off bark and opened them without actually putting in the slopes and stops of a real normal reed. This reed that I took bark off immediately but let dry closed turned into a beautiful flowing reed really fast. This reed that I treated in my normal way of leaving bark on until I scraped is going to take an extra day to get finished. So I was interested in that. I thought it was a good experiment. I may, in the future, begin to take bark off as I wind on day one. Thank you so much for watching. This has been a 5-minute Reedmaker lesson. You can follow these short videos right here on YouTube. You can subscribe if you wish and click that little notification button so you always know when a new video is coming out. If you want to order reeds or cane or you want to reach out to me, you can find me on my website, jennetingle.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.